In this episode of the Highway 62 podcast, we're going to talk to Lisa Schyck from the Yucca Brevifolia magazine. Yucca Brevifolia, that's a scientific name for a Joshua tree, in case you didn't know. I had to look it up. We're going to talk about her journey from Detroit, Michigan to the Joshua Tree area and what inspired her to start a physical magazine. That's coming up. Stick around. It's a good one. All right, Lisa Schyck from Yucca Brevifolia magazine. Welcome to the Highway 62 podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Danny.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks so much for taking some time out. So you are the co-founder, creator, editor-in-chief. You wear a lot of hats over there at that magazine, and we're going to get into a little bit more about what you're doing with the magazine. But first, give us a little background about yourself and how you came to be out in the area here.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Detroit. My background is in human resource development, and I worked for really large international technical companies for like 20 years of my life in human resources. So I spent a lot of time, in organizational development and hiring. And so I spent most of my career in corporate environment, and 10 years ago, I got sober. And so that was a really big part of my story is that, I got out of my own way and I started rebuilding my life. And as part of my journey, I got married, and my husband and I came to Joshua Tree 6 years ago before COVID on vacation. And my husband's an artist, and he's kind of like at the tail end of his career, and all his kids live in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And we left here building a house, and he was like, "What the heck are we doing?" I'm like, "Just trust me." I just felt it. We came here and I was like, "I don't know what you're doing, but I'm putting a stake in this ground. It's like the new frontier for me." And it was the landscape that got me. And it was just like so different, so otherworldly. And I felt like this connection, and I felt like for me, I did a lot of growing, a lot of healing and working on myself. So it was like, this was an elevation of that. I saw this space as a place where I could really, be myself and live authentically and connect with nature. And then we were going back and forth from Detroit. And then it was just kind of like COVID happened. And we're like, I think we need to be here. And so we slowly, gradually made the move here. And then we were here when there was no community. There was nothing going on. But it was the landscape, it was the sky, it was the rocks, it was the Joshua trees, it was just like, wow, like what a true blessing in my life. So, when you become sober and you get out of your own way, like these really amazing things start happening in your life and these opportunities. And I felt like this is where we needed to be. And my husband's kids were in LA, and we were like, let's do this. And so he's a painter and he's a printmaker, and the landscape, is very inspiring to him. So it just really made sense for us. And then as the journey continued, COVID, ended, and things started, and things started like opening up, and I started getting to know people in the community. And I was like, wow, these people are so cool. Like, they're so interesting. Like, they're there, they're here. Like you feel that energy when you come here to visit. But if you're not living here or part of it, you don't really see it, it's like
Right.
underneath the surface. And so I started like getting underneath the surface and going to people's homes and learning about people. And like, my background is in headhunting and recruiting. And so I spent 20 years of my life looking at resumes and interviewing people. And I'm inspired by people. I'm very driven by people, and I learn from the people that I put around me. And so, and it was just so different than the world that I lived in my whole life, in the suburbs. And we lived in Detroit for several years downtown. So it was just like this whole new experience for me and my husband, and also allowed us an opportunity to create a life together, because he had his life. We got married, I got married later in life. He was, set in his world. I was in my world. And it was like I had to join his world, and then he kind of had to join my world. But like moving here gave us this opportunity to create a whole new world for ourselves together.
Yeah, I like you grew up in the Midwest in Chicago, and
Nice.
I think once you for a lot of us, not for everybody, but for a lot of you, a lot of us, when you make those first trips west and you come out here, a lot of times it's hard to go back to the Midwest. Nothing against it. I love Chicago still. I'm there quite often. It is one of the greatest cities in the world by far. And I've played a lot of music in Detroit as well.
Nice.
And they all have their things, that I appreciate and love. But they're, if you're a person that Western states landscape appeals to you, it's really hard to think about living somewhere else, and
Sure.
anytime anyone talks to me about, oh, it's expensive or this or that, I'm just like, I don't care, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's worth, to me, it's worth paying for to be
Hmm.
in, the Western, Southwestern United States. It's just a beautiful place. So I definitely feel you on that part. So, what was the inspiration for the birth of this magazine?
Sure. So, well, my journey started with, I started a book series, and so I am a self publisher. I came up with this idea, and I started a business called the Joshua Tree Dream. And the Joshua Tree Dream is a for-profit business where I am publishing a book series called The Glimpses of the Joshua Tree Dream. I launched my first book last year. I'll be launching my second book come the beginning of next year. And through this process, like, I became more and more inspired by people and the way of life. And then, I see like the challenges that we have as a community, where, people have, their struggles financially. And I also was seeing a disconnect with our tourism. So, you go to an art gallery or you're going to these shows, you're like, well, where's the 3 million visitors? Like, why aren't they here? Like, they want to be here. I know they do, but they got to figure out how to get there. And I felt like, also, I love, I love magazines, and I love Palm Springs Life. I'll just say it. But that platform is way too expensive for our market, for people to advertise in and promote themselves. Luckily, they've been coming here and doing editorial pieces, and they did a nice
Hmm.
editorial piece on my book. And I also purchased advertising there. And I'm like, geez, man, it's expensive. And so I'm like, why couldn't we create something like that? But it's like all Joshua Tree, high desert. We've got so much going on up here. And I'm like, how can we better connect with the tourism? And then how can we better connect with the tourism in the low desert in a really cool, beautiful, like, platform, like having a magazine that can showcase everything that's going on up here. Like, I want to be, diverse and inclusive to everybody's voice that's like, there's so much happening. Every time you turn around, there's something really cool. And there's so many inspiring people that are here. And I'm like, why can't we create a platform for the community to promote our businesses, to promote the artists, the music, and the culture that's going on up here? Because it's happening, and
Sure.
it's growing. And so I feel that, so that's what really inspired me. And I started on this journey with Carlos Reyes. Carlos Reyes is my partner. He is a designer, and he has a shop in Joshua Tree or Yucca Valley. It is called Artifacts. And so we started on this journey 6 months ago. We started planning, and instead of sitting around talking about it and planning, we decided that we were just going to go ahead and start on the journey.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting point that you bring up, regarding the tourism and, how it relates to, a lot of the cultural things that are happening kind of under the surface in the area out here. Because for most of the tourists coming in, you're coming to the park, maybe they go to a restaurant, obviously there's some, with things like Desert X, Highway 62 art tours probably exposes people from the outside to some of the things that they wouldn't normally see. But yeah, when you live out here, or if you come out here a lot, you realize there's all these other things other than that surface, Disneyland tourism, kind of model. There's all these other cool things, tons of art and filmmakers and music and just, a wide array of things. And similar to what you're talking about with the magazine, I've kind of thought about that with the podcast, which is, you know, obviously a lot of people that listen to this are locals, but part of the goal is to have that expand out so that people that are coming from somewhere else can, look at this as, a way to get ideas about where to go or what to do, or just learn more about the region and what's really going on before, they come out to visit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Um, Talk a little bit about just the day-to-day and the framework and challenges of doing a physical magazine in today's world.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely magazines are becoming obsolete, and the whole industry in itself. I mean, obviously things are going, electronically. Everybody's behind their cell phones, and I felt that looking at the model like that Palm Springs Life uses in the low desert, it's a very successful magazine as a tour. It really is like a tourism kind of cultural magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and they do very well. And I'm like, well, I feel that um I think that there's an opportunity for that here in the high desert. And I feel like having a tangible, like actual product, like something that people can hold, they can take away with them, they can take home with them, is really something special. And the content, that the way that we're orchestrating, and curating the content is, it's like timeless in a sense, because we're only doing this twice a year. We're setting, our goal is to launch, September and March. And so it's right before our busy times. And so when we're organizing our editorial pieces and all the content that's in it, we're looking at that perspective as like, okay, because I'm going to be distributing this magazine, here in the high desert as well as in the low desert and in Los Angeles. So like the challenges are to, in the high desert is to educate, our businesses and our artists on marketing and advertising.
Sure.
And how to promote themselves and how to brand themselves. And so I feel like we want to be that resource for them. We want to help them. Carlos has a background in marketing, in branding, and so we want to kind of level things up a little bit. And
Yeah.
If we need to help our advertisers or an artist create a brand or an ad, like we're totally there. Like we've got resources available for them, and we want to help coach people as well. And so it's all about driving traffic, at the end of the day, like people coming to the shows, showing up to the galleries, and coming into the restaurants and coming into the businesses. It is a return on your investment. So the challenge is getting people to realize that you got to spend a little to promote yourself, and
Sure.
also promoting ourselves on social media isn't always the end game. Having and buying followers isn't gonna sell, like at the end of the day. I feel that having a tangible product like a magazine where someone's looking at it, and they're like, wow, and they're learning, and we want to be a platform that's like, it's educational as well. So, That's really the biggest is selling, advertising, and that's what is going to keep this thing going. Is we're an ad-based magazine,
Sure.
and so we have to sell ads to make this thing happen. And I'm looking at it as a pilot. And our first issue comes out next week on Friday. We will have them being distributed all up and down the Highway 62, as well as in the Low Desert and in Los Angeles. And I think that, it's going to be interesting to see how people respond to this. I think that people are going to be excited about it because there's something for everybody.
I consider myself to be a pretty tech savvy person. You just in all elements of my, life, but I love a physical magazine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've never made, I'll make the switch in pretty much everything else, but I've never switched over to reading a magazine on my iPad on the airplane. The experience sucks. And it's such a bummer for me, because I travel all the time to go, to be at the airport. And now the magazine selection is terrible. And all of my favorites that I love to have, all my bike magazines or my motorcycle magazines or Outside magazine, those, Men's Journal, like magazines I loved for years, and I could put 3 of them in, slide them in my backpack, no problem when I'm flying. I just miss that experience, the tactile experience of a magazine. It's interesting how it just hasn't been recreated or done in a better way in the digital world, as far as I'm concerned. So I do like the idea of a physical magazine. So now the magazine you said itself, so you said it's going to be available this next Friday, and we are recording here August 27th. So what is the date?
September 5th.
September 5th. Just because when we're recording and when this episode comes out will be slightly different. I will get it out before September 5th though. And so is it a free magazine for the readers? Okay.
Yes, it is a free magazine. And it's really cool. It's I'm really excited. I'm really proud of how we've curated it. We have everything in there from conservation to astronomy, night sky photography, music, art, restaurants, and we're just really trying. Oh, hiking, rock climbing. We're looking for more, contributors, because there's so much more going on up here, and we cannot do it without the community's help and their voices. And so, it's like we have an open door, policy, and it's about, having discussions and trying to figure out ways to make it fit within like our, within our mold here.
Yeah. I was going to kind of ask you to give us maybe a sample of some of what the articles in this first episode are.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really excited about is we did I'll tell you about like the highlight of the magazine is it's a huge photo shoot spread by a photographer. His name is Rudy Weisling, and we covered it was a vintage clothing fashion show at Pappy and Harriet's that was created by Paul and Lisa of Joshua Tree City Limits. And I mean, it is just stunning, and it is mind blowing, and it is so Joshua Tree. And I mean, I'm just really excited. We're covering, a lot of individuals that are in the community and in really beautiful photos, as well as a lot of musicians, because there was quite a few different bands playing that evening. And so it's just aesthetically, I'm just really excited about it, and it really is a statement. And then like, we have a really interesting piece that's been written by Steve Brown. Steve Brown has been up here for a very long time. He's at the community college, and he did a really amazing piece on conservation. So the main character of the magazine is Joshua Tree. And so Yucca Brevifolia is the scientific name for the species of Joshua Tree. And so So for us, it's really important to educate and bring awareness. So if somebody's sitting in a hotel in the low desert and they're getting ready to come up here and they've been given one of our magazines, they're going to read that these Joshua trees are endangered, and they're going to learn a lot more about what's going on here, in our culture as well. So we've also covered the art tours. We did a really nice piece because we want to partner with our main nonprofits up here. So we did a really nice spread on the art tours so that we're getting out a month before they are, and we're going to hit the ground, with promoting the art tours before they start the art tours.
Right. Gotcha.
So we did another nice piece with Barnett with the Joshua Tree Music Festival.
Music Festival,
Yeah,
yep, Josh Barnett.
Yeah, so we can, start promoting before these events happen, as well as we did a few pieces on astronomy and night sky photography. So we've tied in Sky is the Limit so that we can draw attention to their festival that they have in October as well. So we're really trying to be strategic in when we and who we are covering in these times, the time of the year. And then we have an astrologer writing a piece, and her name is Claudia Thomas, and she's just outstanding. And she's just, everybody that is like our contributors have really are really added this dimension to to the magazine. And we've got a really nice piece on Pappy and Harriet's, and how they've evolved more recently and where they're heading. So as the community is really excited about the changes that they're making as well. So those are just kind of a little a little tidbit on what we're covering. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Lisa, so if somebody's interested in either contributing a story, or if somebody's interested in advertising information, what's the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the best way is to go to our website, and it's Yucca Brevifolia magazine.com, which is, YuccaBrevifolia magazine.com. And so that would be the best way to connect with us, learn about our advertising. Our rates are very reasonable, and things are always evolving, and we're testing things out. And I feel that we're like price point wise, we're it's a good value, because we are distributing over 10,000 magazines, and we will like redistribute come December, January, and February in the low desert during modernism, during the film festival, and during the snowbirds. So like we're gonna make sure they're getting replenished in the low desert when we have these like really big events going on down there, so we can start drawing keep drawing the traffic for up into the high desert.
Awesome. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to getting my hands on that first copy this next week here, and we wish you all the best, and thanks again for being on the show.
All right, thank you for having me.